Okay, I'm live. Having more issues with this monetization thing and BitChute and just a lot of hassles I'm having as of late. And it turns out that none of my streams, or very few of my streams, have actually been monetized. Well, until after I'm already done the stream, which not like I get a huge amount of views to begin with, but the bulk of my views happen during the actual stream. But because I'm only getting monetized after the stream ends, because it won't allow me to turn the monetization prior to setting it up or during the stream. I'm going to try it again today just to see what happens. But like I say, it doesn't seem like I have the ability to turn on monetization. But now that it's live, I'm going to try it again. Try it again. Turn it on. No. Son of a gun. Son of a gun. Man, oh man, oh man. You know, to be honest with you, if I had enough people and it was a guarantee that, didn't have to rely on YouTube to monetize, if I just had PayPal contributors or patrons on Patreon and all that, I'd probably go back to, I just probably turn off monetization on YouTube and stop with, because it's just been a nonstop hassle basically ever since I've started it. And for the little bit of chump change that I get out of it, I don't know. Like I say, if there was a way to do this in a better manner where I could just rely on the financial or economic support off of YouTube, but most people seem to like to, even with the super chats and memberships and everything, people prefer to do it on the YouTube platform. So I'm beholden to other people. Like, that's what I mean. When you try to run a business, you're beholden to your customers. You have to you have to appeal to them and what they would prefer. But I don't know, like I say. Well, anyways, but forget about that. Worry about it a little bit later on. But yeah, apparently it's still not going to work. Let me try it one more time just for the hell of it, though. Just for the hell of it. Let's see what happens. And as per usual, I know you folks are probably sick of hearing it, but I'm tired of having to report on it. But yeah, my subscriber count now down to 7,786, I see. So losing more subscribers. Why? I have no fucking idea. I have no idea why I continue to bleed subscribers. Yeah, okay, monetization. Videos. Okay, there. Saying I'm live. Let me try going on here. Let's see if I can turn the monetization on here now. Next. Oh, wait a minute. But you're asking me to do all this stuff. This might actually work. I might actually have something figured out here. If that's the case, then I'll be really happy about that. Discussions. Oh, for fuck's sakes. Discussions of oh yeah, but I'm not discussing it. I don't know. Going with it. Going with it. Submit. See if this is going to work. Like I say, it doesn't work out to much. I don't know, per stream, what, a few bucks? But I mean, I'd rather have the few bucks than YouTube not give me a damn dime, right? Well, let me reload. It looks like it actually stayed this time. Let's hope it does. I'm just reloading just to make sure. Yeah. All right. All right. Okay. Well, that's a positive sign, I guess. It's better than nothing. Hey, what's going on, folks? Let's see who's in the chat here. Tippy Canoe. Hey, the Tippy Canoe. There's a that's funny actually because there's a little um little restaurant. Yeah, you could call it a restaurant. Yeah, in rural New Brunswick called the Tipsy Canoe. The Tipsy Canoe. Anyways, nice to see you in the stream. I think you're new, actually. I don't think I've noticed you on the stream before. Hey, I'm here, brother. Well, I'm here too. Glad to see it. Or glad I don't necessarily see it, but glad to see that you're commenting on the stream. Anyways, thanks. If you haven't already, hit the like button. And actually, if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, if you wouldn't mind doing that as well, I'd be really appreciative. But thanks. Rowdy howdy from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. What up, Libertarian? What up? The sun today, at least, in the last few days, I'm telling you, it's like I live in a completely different country. It seems the last week, and yeah, I got a lot done yesterday in terms of things around the house. I had to redo the whole back patio door. It was the wood underneath had rotted and it was falling away, and there was actually a gap at the top, and you could no longer open the door. Anyway, I had to take it all apart and replace it and fix it up. Hey, it's working now, anyways. Oh, I seen the. I went down to only 4 people. Okay, Bennett, stop talking. People are running away already. Anyways, good morning. Hey, D. Lee, what's going on? Nice to see you in the stream. Oh, and Missy, what's going on? Hey, Missy, how you doing? Hello, friends and Bennett. How you doing, Missy? Hope everything's doing well. Or choose. What the hell? Down another one. They're coming and going, apparently. Bennett, hope you had a great time with your family. I did, Missy, and I hope you're doing well yourself. But yes, I definitely had a good time with the family. Definitely had a great time with the family. Yeah, lots of personal stuff, but I'll just keep that more or less to myself here. But yeah, I was really. Oh yeah, that's right too. Let me send out these posts on the social media pages. Okay, I see I got a friend request. I'll check that later. Check it later. Oh, by the way, folks, I did that interview with David. I believe his last name is Bimbom. The co-host with Tim Moen. Tim Moen and him, by the way, uploaded their 100th episode on their stream. Yeah, they uploaded it. Was it today or yesterday? Anyway, I just watched it this morning. And yeah, it's 100 episodes they've get in there. Anyways, like I was saying, but I had that stream that me and David were discussing millennials and their reverence for the state. That video only got a very, very small amount, or that stream only got a very small amount of views. So if you folks wouldn't mind checking it out for yourself and maybe share it on some of your social media pages, because I thought it was an excellent discussion, and I think it was kind of important especially for the younger people, right? Millennials in particular, and even the Gen Zers coming up underneath them. Okay, closing out that stuff. And as you can see, the heading of this one, I'm still going with the Liberty angle. COVID-19, ideological conflicts, and gender wars. Yeah, there's that. And yeah, when it comes to the gender war stuff, that really grinds my gears. Oh, yeah. Please like and share the stream. Right on, Missy. But yeah, it drives me nuts with this whole gender wars. And you see it so much, especially the whole feminist bullshit, right? I'm just so tired of hearing fucking feminists go on. I can't stand feminists. And why? Obviously, come on. Like I say, 2 of the most important people ever that have ever influenced or ever played a role in my life are my wife and my grandmother, as you've heard me say many times before. So, it has, big fan of both sexes, right? We kind of need each other, actually, literally, like not just for love and companionship and all that stuff, the beautiful things, but it's literally the only way that we actually procreate. It's literally the only way that the human species functions, or actually most species, as far as that matter goes. But it does drive me nuts, this feminist bullshit, and I'm so tired of it. When you're younger, and you learn about some of these niche groups that become activists to claim, because they want to be equal in some way. So, whether it's the feminist movement, whether it's the LGBTQ, RSTU, VWX, Y, and Z, whatever the hell you want to call it, movement, minority rights, like, Black or First Nations. The thing that drives me nuts is every time someone sets up one of these activist type endeavors where you're picking a group, to me, all that does at the end of the day is pit us against each other. That's all that fucking does, because not everyone's going to want to identify as an LGBTQ activist or as a feminist or as a minority. And what it is, people will have different perspectives and opinions on it, rightfully so, right? And then that's where it creates the divide, which to me, the most insane part of it is, which is why after I've heard all these things, you run through all the different bullshit ideologies in terms of, collective groups or special interest groups. Like, it's also, to me, it's all so redundant and such a complete waste of time, and not just a waste of time, but actually counterproductive, because like I say, all it does is create and stir up more divide. When all you need at the end of the day, libertarians got all this shit figured out. If you're LGBTQ, whatever the fuck, if you're a minority, if you're a First Nations person, if you're a libertarian, if you're a religious person, whatever the hell you want to, if you're a feminist, like I say, whatever the hell you are, all you need at the end of the day is equal rights for individuals. That's it. When you're talking about actual having rights, because that's what they're fighting for, right? Oh, we need equal rights. We need equal this. We need it. No, if you want equal rights, just acknowledge and recognize that we're all individuals and fight for individual rights. That's what libertarians do. That is what is baked into the cake of the philosophy of libertarianism, is individual rights. So, hey, if you're LGBTQ, well, you're an individual. There, you're covered. You're covered. Doesn't matter what the fuck you identify or who you screw at night. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. Same if you're a feminist. You're all about the vag, right? And anti-penis, whatever. I don't give a shit. I don't care, because at the end of the day, you're an individual. Well, boom, there you go. Individual rights got you taken care of. Black, brown, yellow, red, whatever the hell, white, whatever the color green. Hey, fuck, I don't know if there's any Martians in the house these days. I don't know, but whatever it is, if you're an individual, boom, got you covered. All that, like I say, so all this bullshit, redundant layers of special interest groups. No, all it is they want, it has nothing to do with equality. As we've seen, the feminist movement, did they really strive for equality? No. Look what turned out. Feminists now look to dominate men. That's really what it is. That's what the feminist movement's about, is dominate men. LGBTQ, right? Oh, was it just about equality? No. Now they want to dominate bathroom spaces or wax my nuts or whatever. Anyways, I don't even know why I'm going with this, because this is nowhere near where I was going to talk about in this. I guess kind of in a way. Well, yeah, I guess in a way, because of the gender war thing, right? But I guess I'm kind of expanding on that. But yeah, it definitely drives me nuts how, and the media just loves playing up these kind of divisive narratives where they're like pitting men and women against each other. Like I say, people from different identify or how they identify in terms of gender and all this shit. And now, in addition to it, I'm going to get on talk about this a little bit later on, because the big thing is feminism, and now this whole thing in terms of the terrorism and the incel rebellion or uprising or whatever the hell. So, yeah, watch out, man. Yeah, the authoritarian feminists, and I mean Trudeau, authoritarian feminist, authoritarian leftist feminist. That's what Trudeau is. He identifies as a feminist. Yeah, they're coming after you. Like I say, that is a guy that he's a male, as far as I can tell, right? I don't know. I've never really checked his actual full anatomy. I don't really give a shit, to be honest with you. As far as I know, he's a male. That's about all he can say. He seems to be, I don't know if it's self-loathing or he just hates every other man. But I guess maybe he don't perceive himself as a man, but he seems to have a hate on for men. And he will definitely align with the feminists, because, hey, so do they, right? So they're aligning themselves now, like I say, and now that they're pushing for, to create incel or anti-women and women violence, as if domestic violence that's already illegal. There's already laws on the book. There's already rules to cover all this stuff. But now they want to turn it into terror-related charges, right? So they can even escalate what they can do. So, yeah, like I say. But anyways, I'm going to get that a little bit later on. But let me get back to the stream, see what everyone's up to. Hey, good morning, Rika. Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you in the stream, Rika. Don't use gender language. I hear you, but no, but it's so, it drives me nuts, Missy. It drives me nuts, because it really is a way to put a wedge between men and women. Like I say, it's such a, And especially for the younger people today, it's like, God damn, I'm so glad this shit wasn't nearly as prevalent when I was growing up. It seemed like the feminist movement fucking died off when I was going through my teen years or something. It seemed to be in like my teen years would have been in the 80s or something, because men and women, we were seemingly getting along just great during those times. And, all of your typical cultural influences, such as movies and television and music and all that stuff, it was all about men and women loving each other and forming relationships and all that. It was all about bringing us together. Now everything seems to be just fucking trying to force us to divide. And to me, that the thing that drives me crazy about it, obviously, especially for the younger people, they're all putting, and it's just one more area where they're putting off the inevitable of actually, having a family. Like that's what you're supposed to be doing, because the younger people today are too busy fighting amongst each other, the sexes, or trying to pretend or figure out what gender they are, or if they should even, deal with the other sex, or just, exit. Because that's the other thing. It's not just the feminists, it's the men that are doing this stupid shit too. What's it? Men going their own way. MGTOW. Men going their own way. MGTOW. Oh, what? You don't need women anymore? Oh, really? Well, how are you going to do that? Now, I get it. You can toss one off in the corner somewhere, but yeah, you're not going to reproduce any kids, and you're not going to fall in love with your hand. I don't think. Anyway, it's pretty weird if you did. But I mean, yeah, whether it's the MGTOW or the feminists, it's and the young people are hearing this shit, and it's heavily influenced their decisions to basically, avoid dealing with each other. And to me, that's probably what is actually contributing to this fucking thing that we see out there, where there's such a divide. It's like, oh, they're just going to go their own way. So just like the left and right divide is, they've gotten further and further each other, to the point where they're not even yelling across the fucking aisle much anymore. They're basically just ignoring each other these days. Well, that seems to be what's happening among the sexes too. Well, like I say, that can only go so long. And then, well, that continued kind of bullshit kind of leaves the human species, the human race, in a pretty vulnerable situation. Anyways, like I say, I'll save that rant for a little bit later on. Oh, he definitely loves the gender benders. Trudeau's a weird dude, man. He's a weird dude. And I mean, based on his parents and his upbringing and all that shit, hello, the fucking apple didn't fall too far from the tree, right? Me neither, D-Lee. Me neither. It really does, because even before you can get into the nuanced aspect of having any conversation or dialogue with someone these days, you got to go through all this fucking bullshit identity politics and these just ridiculous concepts. And by the time you're done, that's like, okay, I don't even want to continue to have the discussion anymore, because it just took me a fucking hour just to figure out this kind of bullshit. Like, yeah, it drives me nuts. Going to make coffee. Right on, Rico Suave. I saw a video the other day that someone wanted to be recognized as a fucking deer. Recognized as a deer. Oh, wait a minute. Was that? Yeah, I think I saw that, Missy. That was, it was like a tranny or trans something. What is it? One of them gaming services. Is it Twitch? I don't know. I see so much stuff in the run day. I can't remember, but something vaguely, I do remember hearing something. And it's like, it's a guy that's, I don't know if he's transitioned or she or whatever into a woman. Looks like he or she wants to identify as a woman based on how they're physically looking at, or he or she is physically looking at the time. But then I guess when it goes into he or she or whatever the hell wants to be identified as, when it goes into deer mode, where it's pretending or identifying as a deer, it identifies as a male deer. Who the fuck raised these people? I feel like, to me, it's like, I don't give a shit. You identify however you want. As far as that, listen, I that's why I don't have hate on for these people. I actually feel tremendously sorry for them, because I can't help but think, who in the fuck raised you, or who the hell influenced you in your life, where you're so messed up that you don't even know not just what sex or gender to identify as, but even what fucking species of animal or species in period that you are. Like, so, or you pick one for one, and like I say, some really, really weird people. And like, do your thing. Just stop trying to use government as a means to impose your ideas on me, because I won't play that stupid game. The world has gone. Yeah, it is totally insane. It's totally insane. With over 107 genders, how the hell does one find the right bathroom? The insane part is actually, that's not even difficult. When it comes to the bathroom, it's just a simple matter of, those single-use bathrooms, right? Rather than putting a male or a female on it, you can put male or female. or just say washroom, right? And if it's a single use, I don't give a fuck. Go in there and do your thing, right? That's all you really need at the end of the day is just a single use restroom or bathroom. That's it. That's it. Ooh, big deal. Like, whatever. I don't care how the hell you identify. Do your thing. Go do your thing. Hey, what's going on, official blasphemy? We need to draw a line somewhere. Down with the purple people. Unless someone's choking. That's down with the purple people. Yeah, just not the purple shirts, right? No, I'm just kidding. I know, right? I don't know. Yeah, sometimes I wonder who's got a bigger one, him or Sophie? I don't know. I don't really wonder that because I don't really care. Yeah. What's going on, Jake Fillmore? Good morning. Good morning. Ken Rose, since April 1st, 6,000 Canadians have died of CV-19. That's 100 per day. Divide that number to 10 provinces. Now the number 10 per day. We are being hustled. Although if you're in New Brunswick, we're having 0 per day ever since the whole thing started. Yeah, that's right. In New Brunswick, 0 death. 0, 0, 0, 0, which is why you see how that works, Rose or Ken Rose. I get what you're doing there, but and right on, not detracting from what you're saying. But that's actually a great way to point out. Yeah, see how easy statistics are fucking manipulated, right? Oh, it's because technically, actually, Ken's absolutely right. You could average that out if you want to use that as a statistical based analysis, right? And just by using that terminology, it sounds important. Sounds like I might be an expert. I'm going to do a statistical based analysis on the COVID-19 outbreak in the provinces of Canada, right? And turns out that it's roughly on average of 10 per province of people are dying per day. Meanwhile, what about New Brunswick? Oh, 0. Oh. Well, I guess that average doesn't actually work out properly when you actually get down to the reality, right? There's lies, damn lies, and statistics. So, yeah. But I get what you're saying there. No more jokes for me? Okay, I'll cut them off. Women can use sex to control men. Yeah, the problem lies within the... the obsequent... Whoa, I don't even know that. Obsequent. I don't even know that word. Official blasphemy. I usually don't get stumped too bad with too many words, but I understand the sex of this crap, but obviously not a proper solution. Obsequiousness. Obsequiousness? Anyways. But yeah, well, that's the thing. Men have the physical characteristics, right? Violence that they use as a means to control people. Women use the beauty, right? And sex, right? Because yeah, women do. Obviously, they're the ones that choose. But the part that drives me nuts today is it used to be that, yeah, that was the men were the more violent in nature, or at least I shouldn't say necessarily in nature, but used violence as their means to an end. Women used their sexual appeal and things as a means. But that's the thing today. And I've said this before too. Where's this? Like, you can't use the excuse of women being, lower on the scale in terms of promoting or the use of violence as a means to an end these days. Because what is it? I think more women now. I believe one of the statistics I've seen, but I'm pretty sure actually this is something that actually it can be factually proven to be true, is I think in the modern world today, more women vote than men. And when you think about what is voting, except asking big government, which is a representation of a monopoly of force or violence, because that's what government is, right? Those who seek to rule in any particular geographical area or landmass. And like I say, how does that rule happen? By way of not just political edict, but by the way of direct threats of force or violence if you don't comply. That's how politics works. That's how laws come to exist. And because women now are shown to vote and higher rates than even men, well, that means more women are willing to use violence. The difference is now they themselves aren't the ones per se using the violence. Although if you think about who the enforcers are these days, there's even quite a rampant rise in females in law enforcement, or being part and parcel of the police officers, or the court system. So women are definitely on scale, on par, at least, with men these days in terms of using preemptive violence or force as a means to an end, or theft, right? Forced wealth and income redistribution, which once again is preemptive force or violence, or at least a threat thereof. So there is no excuse or no bullshit anymore where it's men have all the violent power and women just have to succumb to that because they don't have anything to. No, like I say, No, today, just like in a household setting, men, let's say you have a man that's 6'6" and his wife's 5'2", he's 250 and she's 125, right? Or 110, or let's say 100 pounds or something. Yeah, the great equalizer. Oh, it would look like it was, a very off-balanced approach. Men much bigger, but hey, if she's got a snub-nosed 357 stuffed in her purse, well, that's the great equalizer, right? Now all of a sudden that 6'6" character can be taken down quite easily and quite readily. So that's the great equalizer. Same with society. Big government is a great equalizer for both men and women or anyone else, because it's basically the representation of the use of violence, and whoever can assume the largest majority to take over control of that monopoly of force or violence. And who's assuming the most control and the dominant influence over the big gigantic gun in the room these days? Feminists, the LGBT community groups, right? Special interest groups in terms of those who represent minority rights, all that kind of crap, right? So, like I say, the rhetoric of the old days that used to be a reality, not just rhetoric, but it used to be reality. Well, that's not actually how it actually plays out in the real world today. Anyways, moving on. Okay. Oh, thanks, Missy. Watch this later. It will make you feel way better. Oh, cool. I'll try to check that out. Shoot. How am I going to see on my end? I don't get to click on. I'll have to do it from the actual YouTube video. I'll try to remember to do that later, Rika. Thanks. Yes, NB is doing great. Oh, here we go. To overly fawning and praising. Okay, gotcha. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to go start covering a couple of the articles here, folks. Just one sec. My weakness are those Instagram models. I have to go there every day and tell them how beautiful they are. Right on. Good morning, Wendy. How you doing? I get to listen to you live today. Awesome. Right on. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. No, it's good. It's cool. Thanks. I appreciate it. And if you haven't already, hit that like button. That'd be great. And like I say, I'm really happy to see more ladies join the stream these days. I'm really happy about that. Really happy about that. What's happening, Mr. G Rich? Hey, what's going on there, dude? Nice to see you in the stream. And as Missy said, please hit the thumbs up and share the stream and all your social media friends. Okay, now let's get into it. Okay, so there's a couple of things before I get into so the economics of it, because so there's the ideological conflicts, but it's these ideologies that are the conflicts in terms of economics, and they're definitely making the rise today. As we're seeing, these opportunists, especially the authoritarian leftists and collectivists, they've been busy trying to use this COVID outbreak to implement some of their crazy ideas or to become even more activists. But they're not the only ones, right? So you got this, I don't know if you've heard about this, but there's this, it's BlackRock's what it's called, but it's a huge investing firm. They have tremendous amount of capital and a lot of influence. And they're the ones that are basically using political activism towards the oil sands out in Alberta as a means to further contribute to the destruction of the oil and gas industry in this country. And like I say, that's completely politicizing the economy. And that's one thing that, like I say, even though I'm not a fan of government or the state at all, in addition to the separation of church and state, ultimately you need separation of the state and economics. Otherwise, stuff like this happens. All right, yeah, I'm just making sure you folks can see it. So as you can see, let me close up some of these ads here. Dang. So this from Terrence Corcoran. He's a great contributor. He's always got great articles. Like I said, I believe the man's a libertarian himself, as far as I know, because he sure as hell seems like one. The way he talks in his articles sure as hell seems that way. Like I say, Blacklock and the rise of corporatism. Not like we didn't already know that corporatism was already part and parcel of what takes place, but it's definitely rising. It's on the rise. Corporations have no business in the staterooms of the nation. No, they don't. I agree, Terrence. This was uploaded, was it just yesterday? Yeah. So May 22nd, 2020. The growing popularity of government-run industrial policy is one side of a bad economic coin that's circulating through Canadian and American political circles. The other movement, taking shape simultaneously in corporate circles, proposed to install corporations as global arbiters and enforcers of environmental, social, and governance policies. With the first, via industrial policy, the state takes a heavy hand in running the private economy. With the other, ESG, corporations play a large role in setting and controlling policies, usually assigned in a constitutional democracy to the state. Is this a fundamental clash of ideas between two different proposals for economic and political governance? They are more likely two sides of the same corporatist coin, in which the state and corporations, the public and the private, the collective and the individual, converge to form some new variation of an old and historically troublesome model. Fascism, perhaps? Oh, corporatism. Lots of ways to describe it, right? All this comes to mind following various news reports about Thursday's annual meeting at BlackRock, the US $7.5 trillion investment giant whose CEO, Larry Fink, is the world's leading corporate advocate for a major expansion of the role of big business into areas heretofore regulated to the state or relegated to the state. Along with a bevy of U.S. CEOs from 181 companies, including Amazon, Apple, and GM, Fink last year led a U.S. business roundtable call for an end to shareholder-driven capitalism. Prior to Thursday's shareholder meeting, which took place electronically, Fink had renewed his role as the leading voice promoting the idea that corporations should aim to satisfy stakeholders rather than shareholders. In a message to clients last January, Fink proposed a fundamental reshaping of finance to allow financial firms such as BlackRock to take on the role of setting corporate policies. A special target was climate change, which would require a significant reallocation of capital. BlackRock, he said, has already jumped in bed with assorted government-led organizations and had begun warning clients to get out of the thermal coal and screen fossil fuels. Fink's aggressive attack on fossil fuels, which is just one part of ESG corporate advocacy, came before the COVID-19 global lockdown crisis, although it is clear that there are now glaring inconsistencies in BlackRock's ideological, environmental, and social policy positions and strategies. However, since it now looks like climate policies will take a backseat to a post-lockdown economic revival, green energy may prove to be less of a focus for the ESG movement. Also, prior to the meeting, critics from both the left and right were ganging up on the investment firm. The Union of Concerned Scientists, which frets about climate change, called on BlackRock to live up to its self-promoted policies. Among other things, the scientists want BlackRock to apply its anti-fossil fuel strategy in its role as advisor to the U.S. Federal Reserve on its massive COVID-19 financial bailout. Another activist on the left presented a motion at the meeting calling for BlackRock to follow its own ESG advocacy. Fink responded, "We believe that BlackRock already operates in accordance with the principles and commitments consistent with the Business Roundtable's new purpose." Anyways, folks, I'll place this link in the stream. Well, it's already there now, but so yeah, that's how they get away or get around. That's how they're going to skirt some of the restrictions that tie up the hands of big government. Now, big government could just, come up with new legislation, but that would create more areas where they might get caught with their hands in the cookie jar. This way, placing that kind of policy stance or these activists in the position where they can do it, at arm's length, and where they're not actual government, where they have a little bit more freedom to be activists, right? And play around with the economic system. I believe that that's what they're trying to do today is a way to circumvent, or like I say, find a get around to the kind of constitutional restrictions, or at least the typical law or economic restrictions that typically restrain big government and what it can do. Government already has a tremendous amount of power over the economy. But like I say, in some areas where they feel that they do have a little bit more restrictions or restraints imposed upon them by, like I say, enshrined law that's been, like I say, you'd have to rewrite all the laws to upend that. But if you can get corporations to kind of act on government's behalf and do a lot of the groundwork or the dirty work for them, well, that's the way, like I say, that's an end runaround that would make sure that they get to be the kind of political activists that they want and get the kind of results that they're looking for, which, like I said, that's quite disturbing all on its own. Okay, and in addition to that, I'm not sure if you folks, I wanted to cover this again. I don't know if I covered it in another stream, but I wanted to make sure because this basically goes along the same lines. And if you're an owner of a business, yeah, you're definitely going to want to refrain from getting involved in this. So as we're hearing, there's all these aid packages out there for the individuals, households, like individual employees, I should say, households, the corporate world, and these big businesses in terms of getting loans or subsidies, right? Or wage top ups, that 75% wage top up that big government's offering. But like I said, they definitely come with strings attached. And what are those strings, you might ask? Well, here we go. Ottawa wants equity option from public companies borrowing through new loan program for big business. Yeah, so in case you don't understand, equity option, that's basically them saying that, we'll lend you the money to make sure your business continues to flourish or function, but we want to have actual partial ownership of your business. So like I said, when I was dealing with this on my social media pages a couple of days ago, this is another end run, another way to go around, right? And find a way to take over the means of the production. Not fully, not entirely. Like I say, it's not the old style of communist modeling that we're looking at. It's a more modern, updated, where you take a little bit of communism, a little bit of socialism, a little bit of fascism, mix them all together. And now you've got your new, I don't like to say whether you want to call it corporatism or cronyism, but it's basically when big business and big government is working together as a means to become a show of force that could definitely overwhelm the customer base or the working class. But if you're a business owner in this country, the last thing you would want to do if you have to take some money from the federal government, well, first of all, I would say don't do it. Don't do it. If you can make it through this without actually having to take any of this bribe money or this kind of money that they're going to use to, like I say, want to assume a partial control of your business. If you can avoid that entirely, that would be wise and prudent of you, because if once government gets their hands on your business, then that's going to come with a whole lot more controls than they already have. The federal government will seek warrants that are convertible to equity or cash equivalents through its large employer emergency financing facility. This was reported by The Logic. The Financial Post owns The Logic, or the Post Media, I should say, by Murad Hamadi or whatever, May 13th, 2020. The federal government wants the option to take equity in publicly traded companies that tap into its new loan program for big business, The Logic has learned. On Monday, Finance Minister Bill Morneau announced the large employer emergency financing facility, LEAF, through which Ottawa will give credit of $60 million or more to firms with at least $300 million in annual revenue that make meaningful investment in Canada and provide jobs to Canadians. The program is designed to let the federal government act as a lender of last resort to large companies that would be viable if not for economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. To secure a loan through LEEFF, companies must show they intend to preserve employment and agree to restrictions on executive pay, dividends, and share buyback. So this is government. Like I say, this is government basically making economic policy. Think about it. You own a business, but if you sign this, that means the government now sets your economic policy or your hiring practice. It sets basically all of your policy for a business. So now these businesses, even though they would be considered still to be private firms or businesses, it's completely dictated and controlled by government. See how that works? Take the loan, and not only do we want equity or a share of your business, but we're also going to tell you how to run that business and how to hire, right? Or who you can hire. Think about how that's going to play out for the foreseeable future. But the government also wants the option to take shares in participating companies. Should a business require further government support through something like LEEFF, we will ensure that these terms protect the interests of Canadian taxpayers. Because they care about Canadian taxpayers, right? Trudeau's been spending hundreds of billions of dollars recklessly just squandering, pissing it away. But yeah, he cares about the fucking taxpayer, right? Anyway, says Pierre Olivier Herbert, Morneau's director of media relations. This includes seeking warrants from publicly traded companies that are convertible to equity or cash equivalents. The LEEFF, I mean, isn't that a shakedown? I mean, like I say, that's the mafia. It's basically the mafia model too, right? The fascist or the mafia model. I don't, like I say, you can find a whole new terminology to describe, because, like I say, it's not the same as the old stuff they did in the 20th century. They're tweaking it, folks. They're tweaking it. So it's not going to be the exact same as the kind of fascism or Nazism, right? Or the kind of corporatism that happened before. This is, like I say, they're retweaking, not just in style and substance, but in policy as well, and what they're going to do. They've learned over the years, like these collective authoritarian collective endeavors and ideologies that gave rise in the 20th century. Like I say, they're picking from each one of them. Oh, there was positive benefits from this, there's positive, and they brought them all together. And I mean, if you think about what they're saying here, they're literally not just looking to take equity stake in your business, but we're even get some cash payouts as a consequence as well. You say, total shakedown, right? Total shakedown. But if people or business owners, are going through enough hardships or financial difficulties, they might be willing to be lured into these kind of programs. Although, like I say, if they do so, well, you might as well just hand over the keys to your business now, because that's what's on the horizon or the future. The LEEFF loans will be based on commercial principles, said Finance Canada spokesperson Anna Amison. In the case of private companies, the program will seek other forms of compensation through the government, though the government has not yet made those public. Anyways, like I say, I'll share this one here into the stream as well. But so equity claim, cash, and be able to control. Where did it go? Control executive pay, dividends, share buybacks, and of course, it'll have to do with in terms of hiring practices too, right? So there'll be a lot of controls. And I wonder if they'll bring that gender equality thing too into it, because, the liberals love promoting that. Oh, yeah, well, you have to make sure that you have 50% representation of women, right? Or a certain percentage representation of LGBTQ, or a certain representation in your business hires in terms of people who identify as minorities or who are classified as minorities, or people from different religious backgrounds. When government's offering out these kind of loans, does that kind of stuff come with, or is that kind of strings going to be attached to these programs as well? Well, based on the kind of rhetoric I've heard from the liberals, since they've come to power, I would say yes. And since I was bringing up the whole the thing in terms of gender wars, I might as well get to this whole thing regarding the incel movement, because this stuff, like I said, I'm very disturbed seeing how it's being reported on these days here. Okay, why isn't my comments going down? Okay. Work hard, believe in God, save your money, don't tell lies, always wear clean underwear. Yes, believe everything your government tells you. Yeah. Yeah, how's that working out for you guys? I know, right? That's the thing. It's not. Good day from the Canadian. Oh, what's this? Line in the sand. Good day from a Canadian expat in Africa. Right on. CCP flu lockdown long over here. Right on. Well, thank you very much for joining the stream from Africa. What part of Africa? South Africa? Just curious to know what part of Africa you're in. Nice to see an expat in Africa in the stream, though. Like to hear from people from all over the world, to tell you the truth. But yeah, thank you very much for joining the stream. And if you wouldn't mind, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel as well, so you can get notified anytime I have further streams uploading or on live. I'm doing okay. Thanks, Mr. Okay. I think they bring in this gender BS because government are full of freaks and they want to legitimize themselves. I believe that's probably one partial reason. Yeah, that article, status virtue signaling. Yeah. Take a look at Ben. Oh, thank you very much, Missy. John Tory says hundreds of police fire to be played off and subway shut down. Funding for care homes cut if feds don't cough. I know. Crazy. Yeah, he's always fear mongering. That's the thing. That's the thing with these collapse narratives. Sounds like it has been seeming like that. It's been seeming like that for a long time. Basically, even you could say that. I mean, this was be talking about like the crash is obviously imminent. When the financial crisis was just barely when the cracks were starting to show then. But 12 years since 2008, right? 12 years later, they've got so much control, folks. There is no longer predictions of when an actual full-on crash will take place because ultimately, at the end of the day, there's just not enough people of us. We represent such a small minority, even those of us who withdraw our economic support of big government or all that stuff. We're such a small player, or we're such small players. And we have such small amounts of influence, and government has the power of the printing press. So I don't know. Like I say, the old predictions where people thought, oh, if this happens and this happens, where you could make that mathematical calculation and be fairly accurate, right? Especially when things were done properly. Like when you know how things actually function, when the economies function as it should be, right? And if you have things where when businesses go into too much debt and you know that, hey, this place is going to go bankrupt, well, normally you can make a proper calculation or a calculated response in regards to that because you know what's going to take place. But when government can step in and bail them out and everybody's too big to fail now, like I say, you can no longer make those calculations anymore because now they've been upended. We live in a strange world today where, like I say, nobody can make proper decisions other than playing like the casino or this big gigantic Ponzi scheme or this big gigantic Monopoly game, which, yeah, who's going to win? I don't know. The insiders, basically, I guess, is the ones who have control in the bank and are the ones that get to write the rules as they go along. If you're the one that gets to write the rules as you go along or get to interpret those rules, well, it's whatever the hell you want to take place. It's rule by decree. It's literally like being a full-on dictator, but you can spread that out to the point where you don't see the actual dictator because they're covered by multiple layers of bureaucracy and legalese that doesn't actually point to that line in the sand where it was actually drawn. So I don't know. It's crazy, folks. It's crazy. Like I say, they're finding out new ways. They're tweaking constantly. Well, yeah, that app. Yeah, well, I definitely won't be downloading any app, and I'm paying attention to my phone. All mayors, premiers, MPP, and ministers should have citizen covered oversight on their private financials. They'll make big. Of course they will, but that's the thing. Lots of people, those econ experts and political parasites, yeah, lots of people think of ways to hold these central planners to account, but could you imagine trying to come up with these ideas at any point in time in history? How did you ever bring down or bring about real change, right? To bring down authoritarian regimes or bring about real change, it requires a substantial coordinated effort of large segments of the economy. Like I've said so many times before, in Canada, we're a very, very tiny minority. I keep hoping every day that I'll see a rise or a ramp up in the growth in terms of people who are turning and pivoting towards standing in defense of their liberties and freedom. But I'm not seeing it. And based on my own analytics and my not just stagnant growth, but my declining growth on my YouTube channel or a lot of my social media pages, it just doesn't look like that's anything on the horizon. Yeah, no opposition party. There is none. There is none. Not in Canada. They all sold out. And just to give you an idea, here. Well, I mean, the PPC was completely knocked out. Maxime doesn't have a seat. But when you're talking about the parties, look at this. Actually, since you brought that up, let me bring this up. I'm going to be kind of skipping over something else I was going to cover, but let me bring this up since it was brought to attention here. There we go. So I'm not sure if you folks have heard about this yet. Out of the politics section, of course, Liberal, Conservative, and New Democrat parties apply for federal wage subsidy as donations dry up. The parties are collecting roughly $600,000 a month from the federal treasury to pay staff. This is reported by John Paul Tasker and Ashley Burke, May 22nd, 2020. So all the main parties, right? 4 of the main political parties in Canada have joined a growing list of organizations looking for federal support during the pandemic. Like, unfucking believable, man. So now taxpayers are on the hook for all this too, right? Or the unborn, like I say at this point in time. Spokespeople for the Liberal Party, the Conservative Party of Canada, the Green Party, and the New Democrat Party told CBC News that they all have applied to the Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy Program to help them cover their employees' salaries as political donations dry up. So, oh yeah, can't get donations anymore? Yeah, just pivot towards the old forced wealth and income redistribution model. Everybody's too big to fail, and everybody gets bailed out these days. Well, unless you're opposing big government. If you oppose big government, if you're someone like me, fucking starve to death is their mindset, right? Don't give a shit. Like, literally, I could be laying in the street or in the ditch or in the gutter, starving the fuck to death. Nobody gives a flying fuck because I won't align with the progressives or the authoritarian collectivists. I won't bow the knee. Like, I won't yield or conform to them. So I was like, Bennett, yeah, let him starve. We don't give a shit about that guy. As a matter of fact, they probably sit there regular basis. I hope he starves so he'll finally shut the fuck up, right? But in terms of everyone else that's part of the big collective, part of the big group, oh yeah, all you have to do, like say, just show your allegiance to the state. If you show your allegiance to the state these days and you kiss the ring of Trudeau or whoever happens to be the figurehead at the top these days, that's all it takes. That's all it takes. And you're golden. Like, you can even be the political opposition party in Canada. And don't worry, everybody's covered, right? Like I said, these people are supposed to be all battling, ideologically battling for their way of governing the country. But look at how easy they all come together when it's, as we already know, when they're not just living off the taxpayer, but now they can sponge the taxpayer for even more. These people are sick. They're vile, disgusting people. I don't know. I mean, all the money that they're making, take it out of your own fucking pocket. These fucking people are already, every fucking MP makes way more than what they're fucking worth. Take it out of your own goddamn salary, right? Do a crowdfunding. You know, if these people are worthy of all this money, well, then do something yourself. And why are your donations drying up? Why are people not? That's what I mean. They don't want to allow the voluntary donations to pay for them. Oh, well, there's not enough. Like, that's like, to me, it's like, oh, I don't like when you folks donate to my channel. That's like me saying, oh, well, gee, not enough people donated this month, so let me just go to government and I'll get my money from them one way or the other. Oh, you don't want to donate? Oh, that's okay. I'll get it on the back end because I'll get government to fucking take it out of your back pocket or out of the mouths of your kids when they're born, you know, so they don't have anything to feed, except I'll use that for myself to sustain myself at their expense, right? It's just so sickening, folks. And to be honest with you, it's days like today, I even get sick of having to report. I just don't. One fucking story is enough that should infuriate people. But like I say, story after story, stream after stream, day after day, more and more and more and more of this stuff comes to light, and it seems fewer and fewer people are caring. Why? I guess everyone or most people these days is just like, well, look, Bennett's been fighting for 10 years. Has it benefited any? No, it's caused them more harm than it's ever done them fucking any good or positive. So why would we want to do it? And you know, I kind of understand at times. I understand why very, 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 very few people would ever choose to do what the hell I do. Why? Why would you want to assume so much abuse, bullshit, and deal with this kind of crap for basically not just for basically nothing, but you know, for more negative than you get in positive. And not against you folks in the stream. Like I say, I'm really appreciative of you folks in the stream and the typical people that like the 100 or 200 or whatever amounts to the people that typically watch my videos. But like I say, it used to be a lot more than that. It used to be thousands, and it went from thousands down to just 1,000 to 1,000 to 1.2 thousand to 1.4 thousand, down to like 800 or 900, down to like 500 or 600, down to like, you know, 300 or 400. Now, well, I got a stream that I just did the other day, 100 and some views. Like, I think it was 119 views. Less and less people care, right? So even myself, I'm soon going to get the point. It's like, why the fuck do I even bother? If less and less people care, nobody fucking wants to listen. Fewer people seeing my video. I'm losing subscribers all the time. Like, if they're trying to incentivize me to fucking finally put my hands up someday and just give up, they're doing a great job. They're doing a great job, I will say, because some days I do get in that mindset, but then I usually brush that shit off and continue to keep trying, I guess. Anyways, back to this article. The NDP made its application for government money public today, while the Liberal and Conservative parties acknowledged to CBC they were receiving the subsidy when asked to comment on the NDP's request for support base. So they were already receiving it. The Liberal and Conservative Party. The Liberal and Conservative Party said they're receiving the subsidy already, while the NDP submitted its paperwork today. The Bloc Québécois tells Radio Canada will not be applying for the subsidy. All right, whatever. Pratik Awasthi, executive director of the Green Party Canada, said the party has applied to the wage subsidy program but hasn't yet received any funds. We have had a drop in donations, and we are a nonprofit and take serious our responsibility to protect the jobs of our staff members, Awasthi said. Yeah, I'm pretty much fucking nonprofit too, but like I say, I don't get to force people to. Anyways, the Liberals employ about 100 people outside of an election. The Conservatives had roughly 60 full-time and part-time employees. The NDP employs 17 full-time staff, with another 15 to 20 working part-time, including students, working mothers, and new Canadians. The staff conduct fundraising, bookkeeping, administrative function, and run the party's digital platforms. The wage subsidy is designed to pay up 75% of workers' pre-pandemic wage, up to a maximum of $847 a week. $847 a week. You know how many people out there working in the private sector could only wish to get that? And that's 75%. Fuck. Unfucking. All told, the parties are collecting roughly $670,000 a month from the federal treasury to pay staff. Liberals, Conservatives, and New Democrats confirmed that they will be topping up employee wages by paying the other 25% themselves. In 2018, the last year from which the data is available, both the Liberals and Conservatives booked over $5 million in salaries and benefits paid out to employees. The NDP reported about $2.5 million in payroll. Salaries were the most expensive line item for both the Liberals and New Democrats. The Conservatives spent more on fundraising. Anyways, yeah, whatever, right? So there's that. So now you're forced to pay for whoever the fuck, like, I don't know. And like, and think about it, people be digital. So some of these idiots in the establishment parties that are out there on social media, right, telling you you're wrong or arguing with you, well, you're being paid. You're probably paying these fucking people to tell you you're wrong, or to call you a fucking fascist, or to call you a racist, or call you a Nazi, or call you whatever kind of negative term that they want to discredit you, or give you or destroy your credibility or your reputation. You know, the constant shit that they espouse, right? Unbelievable. That's why we need to grow and build our voices up as much as we can. Any change we want to see has to begin with our voices. I never give up or give up. Good for you, Missy. Like I say, I won't give up either, but you know, some days it gets harder. I'll vote harder for my freedom. That ought to work. Yeah. Okay, let's get down here. New comments. Okay, why is it not going? Come on, baby. Okay. I'm going to the protest tomorrow in Vancouver. Okay, cool. I think Dan Dix is out there in Vancouver, I believe, right? Press for Truth. I heard something about him this morning, actually, but yeah, maybe that's where they're having the protest. Figure out where they are meeting. Maybe. Well, if you go to Press for Truth, Dan Dix, he usually stays on top of that stuff, and I'm pretty sure he lives out in the Vancouver area. So go to Press for Truth, either on Facebook. Yeah, they have a channel on Twitter too, but Facebook probably, or even if you go and watch their YouTube videos, it's called Press for Truth. They might have something on the protest out in Vancouver, just to let you know, Wendy. Anyway, so let's get back to, like I say, because there's more to cover. More to cover. Well, all right, let's get into this whole thing. Actually, no, before I get into the terror charges in regards to the incel. Well, no, I'm going to do that first then. Okay, we'll do that first. So yeah, I found this article quite disturbing when I was reading it. Because like I say, they try to use these examples of some of these things that happen, and they are tragedies. They're not, that's bad stuff, right? There's bad people out there in the world, right? But to use these like single issues or these isolated incidents as a means to create some kind of blanket or umbrella type of legislation, or means to want now, like I say, paint everyone that does these kind of things, paint them with one broad brush as a means to, like I say, impose your will on them. That's something that government does on a continual basis. Collective punishment, preemptive punishment. That's what big government's all about. So this is an article out of Toronto. Terror charges in alleged incel-inspired stabbing could force reckoning of Canada's terrorism law, experts. Application of terror charges to acts inspired by other ideologies, long overdue, professor says. This is reported by Shanifa Nasser, May 20th, 2020. The decision by Canadian authorities to lay terror charges in the case of a deadly stabbing believed to be fueled by a hatred of women could finally force a reckoning of the country's definition of terrorism, with legal minds on various sides grappling with exactly what counts as an ideological motive, national security experts say. So, right? So it's a hatred of women, right? I mean, sure, some people might have a hatred of lots of things, but just because now, like, let's say someone has some post that they said where they're not a fan of feminism, because that's the thing. They constantly try to correlate feminism with a hatred of women. Like if you hate feminists, then they try to correlate that, oh, you're against women, which obviously is nothing of the case. I'm not a fan of feminism, big fan of women, right? Totally different thing. But the way the media reports or skews that when they're doing the reporting in regards to stories like this is they try to make feminism and women basically one and the same, which is totally ridiculous. Matter of fact, only a small minority of women actually do self-identify as feminism, as far as I know, in terms of last time I seen any statistics reported on how many people identify as feminists. It's usually in a minority type of number, right? The charges announced Tuesday in connection with the killing of 24-year-old Ashley Noel Arzaga at a Toronto erotic massage parlor represents the first time police has treated an alleged incel-inspired attack as an act of terrorism. Since criminal code offenses from terrorism were first introduced in 2001, 56 out of the 57 terror charges laid in Canada have been in cases of extremism. Lee West, former Department of Justice lawyer and national security expert at Carleton University, told CBC News. Until now, just one had been laid in connection with another ideology. In 2008, when a Toronto area man was charged with raising funds for a Tamil militant group. So all except one were all in relation to, terrorism in regards to like Islamic inspired extremism. And only one, but this is once again a Tamil militant group. So it's still a more of a religious oriented extremist group. So there's still all 57, I would say, terrorism related charges in Canada all stem from something opposing or having to do with some kind of a militant group that's religiously driven. That's what it is, right? Religiously driven militant type groups. That's what terrorism, or those are the kind of things are usually referenced or considered terrorist related in terms of criminality. Now that's going to be changing. Ideology is not defined in the criminal code, and this will be one of the interesting things that prosecutors have to face in bringing these charges, because they're trying to prove that the incel movement is an ideology, West said. So how they choose to define that and prove that will be the real interesting element in this prosecution, I should say. One day after the terror charges were laid in the alleged incel-inspired stabbing, Canada's spy agency released its latest annual report identifying violent misogyny as a form of ideologically motivated extremism. The report makes explicit reference, because that's when you're talking about, that's the thing. It's a violent crimes are a crime. So like if you kill someone, maim someone, stab them, shoot them, hit them with a hammer, knock them around with a baseball, all these things, every violent crime comes with an appropriate charge to lay at the feet of these people that are doing these crimes. But once you start to bring it into the ideological realm, now you're trying to politicize the legal system in this country. That's what this is about. This is about trying to bring ideology to the court systems in this country. So this is very, very dangerous. And if this kind of precedent gets set, oh, you better believe it will be not only used for nefarious reasons, but used as a means to attack people who are against big government, or the kind of big government feminism or authoritarian leftism that Trudeau brings to the table. Trudeau and his federal liberals, that is. The report makes explicit reference to 2 violent incidents in Ontario as examples of violent extremism: the 2018 Toronto van attack and a June 2019 stabbing in Sudbury, Ontario, in which the attacker referred to himself as incel and said he drew inspiration from the van attack. Terror charges were not laid in either case, nor were they laid in the 2014 Moncton shooting that killed 3 RCMP officers, also explicitly listed in the CSIS report as ideological extremism of the anti-authority variety. So, and of course, this Bork guy in Moncton, that 2014 shooting where he killed 3 police officers, yes, it was against the state, against authority, against, that's like if someone tried to kill the king or a dictator or a monarch at any point in time. That, you can't classify that as where do you, think about it. Where do you leave anywhere in anything that's what I mean. If you can suggest that this is a kind of ideological extremism because he's anti-authority, anti-government, if you can try to make that a case for saying that people who are against big government, people who are against, the state imposing their will, their mandates, their edicts on you by way of force, violence, coercion, or theft, how do you challenge that? How basically they're trying to make a law now that prevents anybody from being able to challenge the state or big government. Because think about it. How would you ever overthrow? If you're a cheerleader or a supporter of the pro-Hong Kong ralliers that are round against Beijing trying to take over, or if you're a fan of the Syrian people when they were trying to overthrow the regime of Assad, or some of them were, I guess, or any of these African countries or anywhere in the world where they're trying to overthrow, dictators or the government that's imposing their will on them. Well, if you had legislation written like this that causes it to be a terror-related charge by railing against big government, well, like I say, then there's no longer even any pretense of freedom. And like I say, you don't get when authoritarians are at your door, you're not going to be able to just ask them, oh, would you please be nice, right? It's actual violence is the only way. How do you defend yourself against violence that's being imposed on you? Well, the only way to defend yourself against violence that's being imposed on you is with your own kind of violence as a defensive mechanism to oppose the violence being imposed on you. If they make it so that there's a law that prevents you from doing so, well, like I say, then they have literally legalized tyranny. That's what, and no doubt in my mind that's what the Trudeau Liberals are trying to do. They're trying to legalize tyranny in the 21st century. That's what they're trying to do. The criminal code defines terrorism as an act carried out for a political, religious, or ideological purpose, objective, or cause meant to intimidate the public by causing or attempting to cause death or serious bodily harm through violence, endangering health and safety, or disrupting an essential service. So government, right? If you look up what government is what government does, right? And how it goes about doing it, which is, once again, threats of violence or force as a means to their political end. All governments are not just criminal organizations, but terrorist organizations. The Conservative Party, the Liberal Party, the NDP, the Green Party, they want to achieve political power so that they can impose their ideology by means of big government, which is, once again, a representation of a monopoly of force or violence. So they want to use the state, which is preemptive violence, as a means to impose their political ideology on the masses. So all political parties, based on that description, which is why in law, it's never been enshrined in law at this point that doing so, or that you can carry out these things or suggest them to be terrorists. Because, like I say, the minute, maybe that's the reason why they don't do it, because the minute they create legislation that says this in terms of terrorism, then once again, if they do so, then yeah, I should be, matter of fact, if they do, I should be the first one lining up to start a class action lawsuit and say, I want to sue the Liberal government, the Conservative government, the NDP government, and the Green government, all of them, for being terrorist organizations, and actually do actively use terror as their means to an end. So I don't know, but West says she believes Tuesday's move marks a recognition that the incel movement is in fact an ideology that can drive terrorism and is just as repugnant as other forms of extremism that leads to violence. In late February 2020, police were called to a massage parlor in Toronto's North End for a stabbing that left Arzaga dead and another woman and man suffering multiple stab wounds. A 17-year-old was charged with first-degree murder and attempted murder. Shortly after the incident, Toronto police contacted the RCMP's Integrated National Security Enforcement Team after uncovering that this crime was potentially a terrorist activity, the RCMP said in a news release. An investigation found that the crime was in fact one in which the accused was inspired by the ideologically motivated extremist movement commonly known as incel, the release said. But it looks like there was, I guess this RX was a woman. So it looks like two women and a man were attacked. But anyways, whatever. The charges against the 7-year-old, who cannot be named under the Youth Criminal Justice Act, were substantial or were subsequently upgraded to terror-related charges. Incel, or involuntary celibate, is a misogynistic subculture that began online and remained relatively obscure until it was linked to cases of violence and murder in the mid-2010s. Self-identified incel followers share a frustration over their inability to find a romantic or sexual partner, often blaming women for their feelings of rejection. The term gained newfound attention 2 years ago following the Toronto van attack after Alex Manassian tore through a stretch of a Toronto sidewalk in a rented van, killing 10 people and injuring 16 others. Manassian would later vent his sexual frustration to police, saying in an interview he was inspired by incel ideology. But meanwhile, it was both men and women. If you remember that story, it was men and women both that got killed during that rampage. But anyways, asked if it was considering reviewing Manassian's charges to now include terrorism, Ontario's Ministry of the Attorney General declined to respond, saying it would be inappropriate to comment given his case is currently before the courts. If Manassian is found guilty at trial, there's little chance he would ever be released from prison. As for why he wasn't charged with terror offense, West said it's possible that there simply may not have been enough known about the incel phenomena at the time. Prosecutors might feel capable of actually proving that this movement does rise to the level of an ideology that motivates violence that maybe didn't exist in 2018, she said. But anyways, and as you can see, move long overdue, says experts. So the experts are saying that that's what they want to do. And like I say, the writing's on the wall, folks. The writing's on the wall. They're going to ramp up the division between men and women by trying to pump up this incel. I mean, yeah, sure, there's been some isolated incidents that have happened by some people, but once again, I mean, if the person never said a goddamn thing, they very well could have. Who knows? I mean, people kill all the time for what the hell the reason is, but it's the crime itself that's punishable. What the fucking motive was behind it? Like, what guy could be just frustrated, or is frustration. Let's say a person said, I just get so sick and tired and frustrated with life that are you going to make, people who are frustrated with life, you're going to create a whole new category of crimes for that? Why not just deal with the actual crime where the people murdered someone, right? And deal with it that way. No, like I say, this is once again to put a chill between the genders or the sexes and keep that division ramped up. That is guaranteed what they're trying to do here today. These people are sick, vile individuals. See, we got a Chris Light. What's going on? Nice to see you in the chat there. If you wouldn't mind hitting the old like and subscribe to the channel as well if you want to get notified for any future stream as well. Missy Lager, we make great partners. Oh, the men that are abused. We all know some women take over a man's life and ruin it with a snap finger by accusing. That is true, Chris Light. That is very true. Very true. That's the thing. There's men and women both. Like that's what I mean. To pretend that like women are just vulnerable. And to me, even my wife says all the time, like so ridiculous the way the media or the fucking political class or these self-identified feminists such as Trudeau constantly talk about women as if they're just weak and can't do it. I say we live in the 21st century. Like, just stop with this shit. Like it drives me nuts. Men and women can both do terrible things to each other. Like, can we just stop? Like I say, deal with the fucking crime. Really all that needs to be done is just deal with the actual crime that takes place and forget about, this shit where you're playing games with the politics in terms of how they identify, whether they want to identify as male or female or LGBT. It's the crime at the end of the day. Not necessarily the motivation. I mean, sure, the motivation might help us to understand things, in terms of give a better broad understanding of what was going on in the person's mind, but it's the crime. When you're talking about the legal system, the courts, it's the crime, right? The severity of the crime. What the underlying reason of why it happened, like, yeah, it's good to know. I would like to know as well. It's good information to know, but it's the crime itself that should deem what the punishment should be. Not what necessarily what the ideology was. Because once again, what do they think they're going to do with this? What, you think by cracking down on incels and making that a big new thing where you're attacking, like you're going after the incels now to try to take down the incel movement? When has that ever worked? Right? When has that ever worked? What, it'll just give a rise. You're just creating more of a speckle of it. And now you get more of these people. Maybe you'll get more copycat incels as a consequence of this. So once again, I mean, the craziness is they're just, like I say, they're just playing politics and using, people that have gone through terrible, horrendous, tragic events as a means to do so. And that makes the opportunism by these authoritarian collectivists, it just never ceases to amaze me how they're so willing to use these incidents, these tragic incidents, to impose their own ideologies, right? And their political will on the populace. It's sickening. Happy to see my mama doing a great job, Missy. Oh, is that your mom, Chris? Oh, right on. Oh, yeah, Missy's awesome, actually. Yeah, if Missy's your mom, you're a lucky fella there, because yeah, she's awesome. She's awesome. Oh, we got another new one here. Wait, now Ava. I don't know. I might know. I don't know. That's the thing. You never know. I know a couple people named Ava. Hope y'all are well. Thank you very much, Ava. Hey to you as well. Okay, they all went. Okay, I'll go down to this one here, I guess. Feminism faces the same issues that racism does by being convoluted by extremists. How about true equality, addressing the men that are sexually and mentally abused, higher suicide? Exactly. That's what I mean. If you could just take the bullshit separating of the sexes, right, where you're getting them, because right, even when you're talking about rape, believe it or not, more men are raped. Now, it does happen by other men, but once again, if we deal with each other's individuals, if you think about, prison. And I remember when someone explained this to me, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I never really thought of that. And most people don't. When you think about rape statistics, it's, it's mostly, you would think the woman that's being attacked by the big burly man that's the evil piece of crap, right? And that does happen, and they're definitely bad. Or even the ones that take advantage of the ladies that are at the bars and, roofie them up and do that shit. We're always thinking about those things. But what about, when you go to prison or some of these correctional facilities, a lot of rapes take place in these things, right? And then you'll hear like feminists say, oh, well, that's bullshit. You can't use that excuse because it's men that are raping them. No, it's a small individual group of individual men. Doesn't mean you can say that all men are rapists. No, men and women are both raped by bad people. And it just so happens that most of the rapists, not all, but most of the rapists end up being men. But it doesn't matter what sex they're raping, right? If you're being raped by a man, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. That is both incidents, I would say, are equally vile, disgusting, and illegal, right? And should be punished, as such. Whether, like I said, whether it was the woman that was raped or the man that was raped, to me, that's just, like I say, just pitting the sexes against each other. That's all it is. Trying to claim one that's, has some kind of moral superiority over the other, or that someone needs government to take care of them, more than the other side of the equation, right? Or the sexual divide. To me, it's like, no, a crime is a crime. Someone is raped, whether they're a man or woman, they should be punishable. And we should be making sure that no one is left, slipped between the cracks. Not the people that are being raped in these prisons, or not the people who are being roofied or whoever else, like even marriage type rape. I've even heard of people that, the wife don't want it or whatever, let's say, and guys will, oh, you're my wife, I can take it anyways, kind of deal. That was because it's still at the end of the day, even if you're married to someone, it still has to come down to, did they choose to voluntarily engage in that activity? If they didn't, well, right. Now, of course, you have to make that clear and concise. You can't be that stupid little game where it's like, well, maybe not, or not right now, but it's, kind of a playful thing, like flirtatious stuff, right? But I mean, come on. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, back to the okay. Higher percentage of workplace deaths are men. For me, it's about making sure that we address the issues of all without discount. Exactly. That's why individual rights, then you don't have to worry about playing these stupid games where you're pitting, special interest groups against each other. Just acknowledge that we're all individuals. That's the way you deal with it, folks. Individual rights. Feminism is the worst. I'm all for our rights, but these people are way out there. Yeah, of course. All, like I say, every individual rights. We're all individuals. Like I don't like trying to, create this kind of divide, because it really does. It does turn people towards that more in-group preference thing. Okay, well, I don't identify as a man, so I better identify with this feminist group because I'm a woman. Like, no. Matter of fact, there's probably some men that would stand more in solidarity with you than some of these people in the feminist group, because a lot of these people in these feminist groups don't really care too much for women, right? Because there's a lot of women that hate on other women, and they use feminism as a means to batter their other female counterparts. I mean, I hear it all the time from these ones, especially the progressive left women that don't like to have kids and constantly railing against women or insulting women all the time. That your typical, like if you have a typical someone that would be like a Christian conservative stay-at-home mom, how many of these fucking women, how many of these feminists, shouldn't say women, but these feminists that are women, how many of them rail against right-wing conservative women who believe in staying home and raising the family and doing all the typical traditional women roles that women typically undertook throughout all of human history, by the way, right? It's not like it's a new thing. It's kind of literally kind of the way humans function through all of history. But I hear all the time from these feminists, right? Whether it's on news organizations or some of these stupid daytime talk shows. Well, I don't watch them. I get to see clips from them from time to time that people share around. But, where you see how they hate on women all the time. So it's not even, feminism isn't really all about propping up women. Feminism, or showing solidarity with women, feminism is authoritarian collectivism for some women to impose their will and their mandates and their edicts on other women that they disagree with ideologically. That is what feminism is basically used for these days. The original feminism, in terms of having some kind of equality, like I say, didn't even need that. All you needed to do was have individual rights and freedoms and liberties properly respected, right? That's it. You didn't have to break it down into sexes, gender, or race or any of that other stuff, right? Uh, Thanks for being here with us. Your comments are great. Love you, sweet. Right on. That's awesome. I sent them an email after talking to local police, which said that's an absolute lie. No response, changing brokers. Oh, you guys must be talking amongst each other because I'm out of the loop on that one. The Me Too movement's biggest issue is that the victims are pretty much just women. Ever hear about the Me Too movement? Yep. I haven't seen a trend. Roughly a quarter of rape victims are boys or men. Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you, Chris. Friends, please welcome my son. Yes. Yeah. Welcome for sure, Chris. Really appreciate you coming into the stream. Friends, please welcome my son, Chris Light, to the stream. So proud of my son is awake to all this going on these days. Really, that's friggin' cool, Missy, because do you have a daughter as well? I don't want to bring any of your personal business into the stream or stuff, but in addition to, or is this, I don't know. Anyways, someone else I believe is that I've talked to is, anyways, never mind. But seems like you have a really great family, Missy. Really great family. Okay. Oh, cool. Son just turned 19. He's awake as well. Much love to you and Missy. That's awesome, Wendy. That's great to hear too. Really glad to hear, especially so 19. Wow, yeah. So that's 2001, I assume. Then he was born. So what would that be? Yeah. What was it? Would he be a Gen Zer? Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Bonjour, the anarchist. How are you doing? Doing great. Glad to see you in the chat. Yeah, cool. That's great to hear. That's really great to hear. Obviously both of my sons are the same way, very astute, very understanding of a lot of the issues or all the issues that are taking place. And they definitely know how to think critically on their feet, and when they're around their peers, they are the ones that, their peers usually turn to when they're looking for information regarding this stuff because they seem to be more knowledgeable than the rest. And I'm sure if your sons or daughters are like that too, it's good to have these kind of people out there to help, guide and be an influence on these people. Cause a lot of students or young people today are getting some really negative influence by political activists that are all about leftism and authoritarianism, or even some of these right wingers, right? These some of these super right wing nationalist groups and stuff. It's good to have some young people, around to be a voice of reason for sure. We make a great partnership. And what about the men that are abused? We all know some women take over. Oh yeah, I read that already. Okay, sorry. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome, Missy. Yeah. Anything to get us warring with each other instead of focus on the real issue. Yeah, it's slavery. Yeah, exactly. Not sameness of individuals, but equality of individual freedom. No matter the sex, gender, whatever that means, ethnicity, spiritual beliefs, etc. Treat me like a person. I will too. Exactly. The golden rule, right? The golden rule takes care of it all, pretty much, right? Treat people how you would want to be treated yourself. Although I guess sometimes some people actually, some people are very self-abusive, so maybe that's not necessarily, but when you think about it from the proper perspective, right? Is like be reasonable to people and expect the same for yourself. I agree, Missy. I agree. So important to lift them up and be great role. Yes, exactly. It is of paramount importance to do that. And that's my goal. That is my goal these days. And well, it has been for quite a long time, but I even want to step it up to another level. I want to be that leader and lead for my children and to lead by example, right? I don't want to be the one to sit there and tell them what to do from a top. I want to lead. And because I'm leading by example, that they're going to want to actually voluntarily choose to follow me rather than trying to tell them what to do or imposing my will on them. And I'm very happy how my both sons have turned out in terms of that. And I'm sure you are as well in terms of your kids, Missy. Don't treat others like you do not want to be treated. We all know what it's like to be wrong. Maybe more accurate. Yeah, good point, anarchist. Anyway, so where was I at? So let me close up this terrorist thing. Probably just going to cover this one. There was a few more, but this here I thought was really, really important article. So let me just make sure there's a few folks still here in the stream. I'm 129. So I'm going to cover this one here because I thought it was really important, like I say. Finally get a decent article out of a media establishment that talks about experts, but from the opposite perspective. I'm surprised. I'm so surprised. Because usually when you hear the term expert used these days or bantered about these days, it's all about propagating a particular narrative, right? Anyways, as you can see, this is an article out of the National Post. Close these. Opinion. We're infectious disease experts. It's time to lift the COVID-19 lockdowns. Now, they're already kind of starting to lift a little bit now, pretty much everywhere in the Western world. Slowly and gradually and not at the same pace, depends on your particular jurisdiction where you're at, but they're already starting to slightly be losing now. So I think this is a little bit late, but hey, better late than never. Canada needs a hospital capacity-based approach to guide local lifting and reintroduction of restrictive measures as necessary. So this was contributed to the National Post on May 21st, 2020 by Neil Rao, Susan Richardson, Martha Fulford, and Dominic Mertz. Lots of contributors. The past 2 months have shown that with major sacrifices, the community transmission of the SARS-CoV-2 virus could be slowed down. In Canada, we can rightfully say that we were able to flatten the curve to avert a Northern Italy or New York scenario. Now we face the unintended consequences, delays in medical care for non-COVID-19 patients, educational impacts, the looming pandemic of mental health issues, and massive economic repercussions. Widespread restrictions certainly cannot be sustained until an effective and safe vaccine is widely available, which may not occur for years, if ever. And the virus is unlikely to disappear from Canada or the world anytime soon. Did the lockdown achieve the desired goals? Yes and no. Success in flattening the outbreak curve permitted the healthcare system to handle the surge in cases safely and to avoid unnecessary deaths, but we were not successful in protecting the elderly and frail population in nursing homes, where roughly 80% of Canada's deaths occurred. It is important to point out that more than 95% of COVID-19 deaths occurred in those over 60, compared with none under age 20. Protection of the former group deserves the most attention. This will be easier if limited resources are diverted from other low-risk groups. So that's what I've been griping on for a long time, folks. And you know that or especially those of you who've been watching my streams for the last month in regards to COVID. I was saying this first and foremost, and I wasn't one of those people out there making predictions, and I'm glad I wasn't. Why? Because now people that were making a prediction to how severe or how minimal it was going to be, both of them are seeing like, oh, shit, I didn't call that one very good, did I? I won't name any names as of yet, but a major YouTube influencer that I pay attention to a lot of the stuff he says, although I prefer the philosophical stuff, not so much the way he deals with some of the political stuff. But yeah, having to do a little backtracking, have to revent or retweak the narrative a little bit there with me. I don't play this stupid predictive shit because I don't know what the hell. Who the hell am I? I'm a guy sitting in my house trying to figure stuff out. Yeah, I get access to tons of information, but I just feel weird when I try to make a prediction on something. There's just no way I can know about it. But one thing I did say earlier on is just common sense. Like I say, using those critical thinking skills that I've learned and developed over the years is, okay, so if there's a virus and it's out there, okay, since we know that people who are aged and elderly, no matter if it's a virus or an infection or people in that position are already susceptible to be vulnerable on a multitude or for a multitude of reasons, or depending on what's being inflicted on them. Even a fall, right? Age, as you age, you become more vulnerable in many, many ways. And I thought, and because, like I say, I care about elderly people too, and especially my grandmother and people like that. I remember thinking early on, okay, so if this thing's breaking out, and we didn't know even at the time, I didn't know how many people were going to be affected, or that it was mostly going to just affect the older people, although I highly suspected that because, older people obviously, or people have, vulnerabilities such as conditions that put their immune system in a lower state of preparedness, all those little things, right? That you would use just for common sense is like, okay, yeah, these people are definitely the ones that we want to protect. And I said, like I say, at the very beginning, when this started happening, I said, this is where we got to make sure that the people that are being protected is done. It's done right. I said, these long-term care facilities, right? The aged, the elderly, the people who are, have preconditions that make them vulnerable or susceptible to suffering tremendously, right? Or potentially dying from some kind of outbreak or virus such as this. I said earlier on, that's important. But what happened? Government, right? Government tries to play this fucking bullshit, one size fits all approach. Matter of fact, government would have basically shut down the entire economy if it wasn't for the fact they realized, oh, everyone's got to eat. So they left some things out that were deemed essential services. But even that, as you know, was everything that was left open truly essential service? I don't know, right? It's all subjective at the end of the day, if you ask me. But you see, they put a lot of coordinated effort into making a blanket one-size-fits-all approach across the board. Now, the provinces did try to tweak and do things a little bit different in each province, which I'm kind of appreciative of. But a lot of them still went with this, basically the same playbook, right? Basically ripped the same page out of the playbook and just locked down basically the similar segments of the economy. But what happened? 95% of the people that died were people 60 and in these long-term care facilities. 80% of them were in these long. So why weren't these people? Why weren't all the resources going to protect the vulnerable or these long-term care facilities rather than spreading it out all over, like I say, in some of these low-risk groups or like the schools, right? I mean, look at kids these days. Oh, I mean, it's been proven now, but the kids are much more healthier. They would have been able to get over this, even ones that did contact it. But as we see, very few of them did contact it. And you might have been able to grow up just like what Sweden's doing in terms of getting a little bit of that herd immunity. Like I say, that Sweden model with herd immunity and protecting the vulnerable seems to be literally what this person is suggesting or what these people are suggesting. That would have been the proper approach. And like I say, a lot of the resources, not just economic, but physical, like human resources, could have been better placed to protect these people. But what did they do? Waited way after the fact and then send a bunch of military personnel into these long-term facilities. And because they sent, as far as I'm concerned, the wrong people to deal with this thing, what ended up happening? Well, now you got an outbreak in terms of the military people. So, like I say, it was just dealt with the wrong way for sure. But that's the thing. Government tries to play that one-size-fits-all approach, whereas if these institutions, these facilities function more like private sector businesses, then they would all have their own way of doing things. And I'm sure they would have done a much better job, especially if they were the ones that were going to be held personally culpable, responsible for what happens inside these institutions. They would have more of incentive to be more proactive in protecting the people that are vulnerable in those institutions. Whereas government imposed what you should do, what the lockdown restrictions, what the rules are all about. And people are like, well, as long as I follow the government rules, well, okay. Hey, I've abided by the rules right there. You can't hold me responsible no more. I wash my hands of it. I did what the government told me, right? So now, where do you place the blame? Going to be a little bit harder to figure out where to lay the blame or whose feet to lay the blame at now, right? Protection. Okay. In Canada, the individual rate of death from COVID-19 from people under 65 years of age is 6 per million people, or 0.0006%. Yeah. This is roughly equivalent to the risk of dying from a motor vehicle accident during the same time period. All right? Do we shut down the entire economy or large sections of the economy for car accidents? Nope. With a death rate of 6 per million people? Nope. Not even close. Barely. People didn't even give it a second thought in their day when they read an article or see a news headline that says somebody died in a car accident. People see that and they just turn the page, right? Nobody thinks, oh no, somebody died in a car accident. We better ban all cars, right? No such thing ever takes place. Why? Because people have been at least conditioned to think properly about that over enough time. Whereas now they're being conditioned to think completely different when you're talking about COVID-19, even if the actual potential for death is basically the same. This is roughly equivalent. Okay. In other countries where data are available, 0.6 to 2.6% of deaths in people below age 65 have occurred in people without known underlying health conditions. Although the risk of death is small in this group, ongoing research to discover the critical risk factors for death from COVID-19 in younger age groups must remain a top priority. This will permit us to better protect those at risk while loosening restrictions for the majority. Right on. Exactly. And like I say, these are experts from what they're saying, right? Not that I'm a big fan of always having to claim to only pay attention to these people that the media suggests are experts, but hey, these are experts that are offering a completely opposite perspective than what the typical experts have been tethered to us have been saying ever since COVID-19 broke out, right? It's also time to continue releasing lockdown measures. Remember, the original approach of flattening the curve was to relax restrictions if the system was not overwhelmed, right? Because that's the thing. That flattening the curve was only meant, right, to make sure that the hospitals or those facilities weren't overwhelmed. That's definitely not taking place. So yeah, let's get things on the ball and let's get things starting to open back up. That is still the appropriate goal. It is unlikely that zero infections can be achieved for COVID-19, which fundamentally spreads like influenza or the common cold, including from those without symptoms. The virus causes diseases so mild in many people that it can circulate without detection until it is introduced into a vulnerable population. Yeah, right? In indoor settings where these vulnerable, like I say, which would be a much easier place to protect than out there patrolling everybody out in public spaces, right? They're out there spending all these resources, got all these bylaw officers, all, like I say, all this money and efforts going into watching people out in public spaces, which actually is the much better place to be, a lot less chance of contacting this virus, but minimal resources in the places where you actually could prevent some of those breakouts. So much fail on so many levels. And why? Because big government messed up big times. The experts that big government and the media hacks typically were turning and pivoting to have shown to be completely out of touch with reality and gave the wrong advice as far as I'm concerned. While some advocates wait for a vaccine, that would mean continuation of a lockdown for an unknown period of time. This approach ignores how complicated and difficult vaccine development can be. It is entirely possible that in 2 years, we will still not have a vaccine, and very probable that a vaccine will not eliminate the virus entirely. Hence, we need to come to terms with the fact that we cannot eliminate this virus. At best, we can continue to slow its spread and protect the frail and elderly. So they're basically saying how I suggested that how this should have been covered when I first started learning about COVID-19 and the outbreak. Basically, what I was saying all along, and like I say, I'll give myself a little pat on the back. But that is, and you folks know because, well, not only is it evidence because you just go back and watch, you'll see I said this, but that's exactly what I was saying. Do this. And these experts, 4 of them are saying that is exactly what should have been done. Now, like I say, it's a little bit late to the game, but at the very least, now I get it. And they waited till all the evidence was in, right? I was a little bit more preemptive in my suggestion first and foremost. So maybe waiting a little bit longer for the evidence to come in. Although, like I said, I still think at the beginning, that kind of advice would have helped tremendously. I think there would be a lot more elderly people still alive today if that kind of advice was actually taken into consideration, or at least, like I say, allow these institutions to know, hey, I would just point out, it's your job to protect the people in your facilities. Don't rely on government to tell you what to do. That's your job. And if you don't, yeah, you better believe that there might be lawsuits come to exist. So, like I say, if they knew that they were personally responsible for the people in these institutions and they couldn't offload the economic or the legal costs to the federal or provincial governments, they would have done a much better job and would have been much more proactive of making sure that those facilities were much safer than they were, right? And if they had access to the proper PPE equipment, which once again, the federal government trying to have control over all that stuff. If private businesses have control, if there was an actual private market for these kind of PPE and they didn't rely on government right, to provide for them or to source them, then they would have been in the position, like you say, a much better position to be better prepared for this outbreak. Governments now propose that we test and trace all contacts. Oh, that was the other thing too, because they said could take years, and even if you come up with a vaccine, it's not going to protect everyone. There's another thing too, because a lot of vaccines aren't effective at all. I mean, how many years go by where the flu vaccine is not effective to a substantial degree? So there may never become a vaccine for COVID-19. May never. So the pretense, oh, you're just going to have to wait that out, or now you got to wait for the second wave or third wave. It's all proven to be a farce, and it will continue to be proven to be a farce, because reality is going to prove to be much more powerful than the rhetoric, right? Governments now propose that we test and trace all contacts of identified cases of the disease. As we embark on this stage, we'll find cases that would previously have gone unnoticed. Ironically, the better our testing capacity and the more we look, the more we will find, making it appear that disease is worsening when it isn't. Exactly, right? Exactly. Glad they're pointing this out, because, yeah, more testing, right, might show more cases, but it might just mean that they're just seeing a more representation of that reality out there. Doesn't mean that it's getting worse, but, depending on how the media wants to spin it, damn well there's some hacks in the media that if that does happen, that's what they want to do. Ooh, there's a whole new outbreak, right? No, just more testing, right? Just more testing. This is particularly problematic as restrictions are being lifted. Should we automatically reinstate restrictions when the number of cases increases? No. Instead, we should use local hospital capacity as the guiding principle. Exactly. That would work. Like, yeah, if the hospitals are at 50, 60% capacity, yeah, we're still good. We're still golden, right? I mean, when you get to the point where you're getting up 90, 100%, but that's the thing. A lot of these hospitals function at ridiculous levels in terms of capacity already, so they haven't left themselves any breathing space, which is why they were so concerned, at the beginning onset of this outbreak. It's a failure of big government. It's a failure of central planning, and it's a failure of having the proper facilities up and running before these things happen, not trying to catch up long after the fact, right? Ensuring that all patients who need hospital or ICU care can get it. This is not going to be a one-size-fits-all solution. Hey, is this guy listening to me talk about that? I use that terminology all the time, right? I'm just kidding. But anyways, what happens in an urban center is different from what happens in small cities or rural areas of Canada. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock, right? We need a tailored regional approach if the local hospital system gets strained. Germany, for example, chose a local threshold of 50 new cases per 100,000 population per week for when reinstitution of lockdown measures must be considered based on local capacity. Makes more sense as far as I'm concerned. The Ontario equivalent using the same threshold would be 7,300 new cases per week, or 1,043 per day. In contrast, Ontario has recommended a much lower province-wide threshold of 200 new community cases of infections per day as a threshold for action. This is based on an estimate of the ability of the system to accommodate the required contact tracing for every diagnosed case at the provincial level. The number of community cases should not be the metric of choice for relaxing restrictions, as it is not a reflection of the more critical measure, hospital capacity. In addition, time spent on contact tracing is neither necessary nor feasible for all community cases, as it misses symptomatic and covert transmission. Instead, testing and contact tracing should be focused mainly on hospital and long-term care institutions where the impacts of disease are the highest. Exactly. Preaching to the choir here, because, yeah, I'd be singing the same tune. Accepting ongoing sustainable levels of transmission might be a healthier option in the long term. While the lockdown has decreased transmission of the virus in the short term, it has also prevented the development of population immunity in low-risk people. Exactly. We should embrace the benefits of the development of immunity in a growing segment of the population. Right now, the only means of achieving this is by natural infection. Recent data suggests that the human body reacts no differently to this virus than any other respiratory virus. It mounts immunity, and once achieved, the virus gets cleared, and there is protection from future infection. Given the novelty of this virus, we do not have long-term data, but we know from 2003 SARS that immunity may last up to 13 years. Once a vaccine is available, that would be the preferred option. However, there's no guarantee of whether and when a vaccine will be available or how effective it will be. to say nothing of how broad the uptake of it will be in the population. Yeah, exactly, as it won't be by me. With this approach, will this approach cost more deaths? Sweden, which allowed for more community transmission, is the measure of this strategy. More deaths per capita did occur than in Canada. On the positive side, Sweden's number of new cases has peaked, and Sweden will be better protected against future waves and the need for future restrictions. In the absence of a vaccine, it is a question of paying now or paying later, right? That's the thing with Canada, right? And the fucking debt levels in a lot of these Western countries. Yeah, kick that can down the road. But once again, all you're doing is beating the can up further, right? That's the thing. It's just prolonging the pain, folks. Take it now. Rip the fucking Band-Aid off, right? But that would require you to be brave and bold in your decision making, which definitely doesn't take place at the federal or the provincial level in terms of the politicians of this country. While the realistic goal of Canada's lockdown was to delay deaths, it was never going to avoid them entirely. 1 year from now, Canada and Sweden may well have the same number of deaths per capita, but Canada may have had significantly more economic and social impacts. Canada needs a model that uses a hospital capacity-based approach to guide local lifting and Go start that again, folks. Canada needs a model that uses a hospital capacity-based approach to guide local lifting and reintroduction of more restrictive measures as necessary. In the absence of hospital strain, consider continuing with a swift release of lockdown measures to include opening of elementary schools, playgrounds, workplaces, stores, and restaurants, while following basic physical distancing rules and voluntary limitations to social gatherings, while continuing to ban mass gatherings and protecting the elderly and those at high risk. Dr. Neil Rao is an infectious disease specialist and medical microbiologist in private practice in Oakville, Ontario. He is also, so he's not a government funded, right? Probably why has the audacity and willingness to say what he's got to say, right? Apparently didn't have to sign an NDA with government saying, y'all shut up and only just parrot what my political masters tell me to, right? He is also an assistant professor at the University of Toronto. Dr. Susan Richardson is a retired infectious disease physician and medical microbiologist and professor emerita at the University of Toronto. So someone that's retired, right? So maybe the NDA no longer applies, right? I'm seeing a pattern here, folks. Dr. Martha Fulford is an associate professor at McMaster University and infectious disease physician at Hamilton Health Services. I don't know how she managed to. Maybe she only contributed to some of the numbers and didn't say some of the things in terms of pushback. I don't. Anyways, Dr. Dominic Mertz is an associate professor at McMaster University and an infectious disease physician hospital. So these people are obviously, proficient and so-called experts in their field. Anyways, like I say, let me get back to the stream. But I thought that was a really, really important article to cover. And like I say, at some point in time, stuff like this, I'd probably like to take the time at some point in time in the future to even just take that segment out and share it as a standalone video, because I think that article is a really important one to cover in terms of pushing back against the narrative that we've been hearing by a lot of the so-called experts, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, I hear you with that one as well. Official blasphemy with the shutting down the schools. Good for people to learn about the fact that you can educate and get a much better education today online and for a whole lot cheaper too, right? Perhaps parents will learn that they don't need a government institution to be social and teach their children. So true. Well said, official. Well said. I agree with you 100% on that one. Oh yeah, for sure. I'm not against vaccines. I am not an anti-vaxxer. I just don't just go around put my arm out for anything, right? I'm just not that trusting of people in government. Sorry, right? Even ones that have the best of intentions. How many times have we heard they even had the best intentions, but it turned out, they were completely off base or out of touch with the reality, right? So no, I'm not against vaccines, but I'm definitely against I just use common sense. I just let this kind of logic roll around my mind's like, yeah, for this, no, not necessarily. Now, if I was going to travel to a foreign country where, I'm susceptible to a multitude of different various viruses or diseases or whatever other things that, that can happen to you, like when you travel to foreign countries. Would I possibly want to do so and make sure I was a little bit preemptive and protective? I would, but I'd also want to learn about, what's in these vaccines. What are they comprised of? Are there any long-term effects to them? Has there been any detrimental effects or side effects that has caused people where the pain or the suffering was even worse than if they didn't take the vaccine? So, like I say, to me, it's just about being proactive and thinking about these things critically. But yeah, I'm definitely not against vaccines. Vaccines are fine. Just for this particular instant and how this story is being unfolded and portrayed, and with China being possibly one of the countries that might be where the vaccine originates from and brought to Canada, because as we're hearing, Canada and China is working together to try to come up with a vaccine. It's like, nah, sorry, I don't even trust my own government. Never mind a foreign government such as China, a communist government. So no thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. Okay, I'm scrolling down. I think I missed a bunch of your your comments here, but I got to keep going down anyways, folks. Sorry about that. Okay, where else are we here? Um, Twin Ricks for Bennett? What's that? Twin Ricks for Bennett. Anyways, folks, I'm just going to scroll. Okay. Okay, we got this one done. Oh, yeah, let me do this one yet. Do I have enough time? Ooh, 157. Nope. Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it in the next stream. I'll do it in the next stream because yeah, I got even more articles that going to deal with the yeah. Yeah, no, I'm going to save it for the next stream, folks, because I don't want to make these streams run on too long. Anyways, I'm going to tie this stream up, folks, because like I said, I try to keep them under 2 hours as best I can. Like I say, you folks are troopers as it is, just for staying as long as you do, and I really appreciate it. Plus, I think the longer they go, less chance of other people watching them. So, like I said, I'm going to tie this one up. I'll cover the rest of the articles that I kind of had set aside. I had another 1, 2, 3. I had another 4 set aside, but I'll share them in the next stream. And hopefully, I'm going to get to the point now where I'm going to be kind of not having to deal with the COVID as much and kind of getting more into talking in terms of philosophy and aspects of that, and getting back into my thing that I like to do, push back against big government. Oh, that's the thing. The beautiful thing about dealing with this COVID thing is I get to bring philosophy to the table in regards to pushing back against this stuff anyway. So I kind of get to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But I'm definitely going to get back into making more videos. So what will probably happen at some point in time is less and less streaming, like maybe 1 or 2 streams per week, and more of like uploading videos to kind of balance it out, because the more streams I do, especially because a lot of them weren't being monetized, means that I'm not getting paid for anything other than like when folks donate and stuff, which once again, I really appreciate a lot, all that. But at least my videos are much more easier to get more views. Like even if you look, my last 2 videos that I did, and prior to that, I hadn't uploaded a video for almost like a month, like I say. And then I uploaded 2 videos recently. Those videos got 3 times the amount of views as my streams did. So, At the very least, I get more people that are willing to watch my shorter videos. If I keep my videos like 15 minutes or under, or especially 10 minutes under, if I keep them 10 minutes under, even better. But I usually at least try to stay below 15. But if I keep them for that length, I get a lot more views on them, which means more and more people are receiving the kind of information that I want to put out there. So I'm going to try to balance it out after, like I say, once this COVID stuff starts to die down. I'm going to try to get back into being more balanced in terms of my streams to video ratio, because now, like I say, it's just been stream with basically no video. So I'm going to try to, like I say, fix that up a little bit so it's a little bit more consistent, more videos, less in the stream. But I'm still going to continue doing the streams because the one thing I really love about doing the streams is my engagement and interaction with you folks. That's the main reason why I like doing these streams. Tell you the truth, because the video thing is, for me personally, it's much easier for me to do the actual video thing, because when I'm recording and I make a mistake, because if I don't have my glasses on and I make a mistake while I'm reading the freaking thing, well, I can edit the mistake out in post-production, right, in the video, because it's not uploaded. And then I can upload the video where it's like it's in the final edited form, where you don't have to hear me stumbling or making a mistake, which comes across more professional, which is probably another reason why more people are willing to share it too, because it's all about looking and sounding professional at the end of the day, right? But that's kind of what I prefer, is to do a lot of it. But when I'm doing my videos, it's all me by myself doing this. It's like, I don't know, like I say, I miss you folks when I'm just doing my videos. Like, damn, I like doing them because I have more control over, like say, like editing and the post-production and all that stuff, and making sure everything's monetized. Like, that's the thing, because I can do it, set it up that way. They're always monetized because you do it as you're doing the upload. But like I say, I miss out on hearing the interaction and the feedback from you folks. So I'm definitely going to stick with doing the streams because I really, really enjoy this. But I definitely got to get back into making more videos so more and more people are paying attention to them as well. So like I say, I'm going to balance that out, and hopefully I'll get the balance proper. Might end up being 1-2 streams a week, maybe might even just be 1 stream a week. I'm still trying to figure it out if it's going to be 1 stream a week or 2 streams a week, and maybe a couple of videos every other day, maybe, right? Something along those lines. So a video, day off, stream, day off, video, day off, stream, something like that. Or it might be 2 streams on the weekend, and then during the weekdays. No, I got to save a day, at least one day on the weekend. Because that's the thing. If I tie up all my weekends, then the wife won't be very happy either. Right? I got to leave time aside for the family, right? Yeah, that's just the reality, folks. I got to save myself some time for that. But like I say, I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm thinking on the fly what I'm going to do. And I'm definitely going to get to the point where, like I say, I got a more consistent, and I'm going to pay attention more to the analytics too on my channel, so that I'm uploading videos at a time that's more conducive with getting more views too. Because like I say, I noticed based on my YouTube analytics that a lot of you folks, or most people who watch my videos, the morning streams, the reason why I'm getting a lot less is because a lot of people don't start becoming more active on their social media till it looks like about 1 o'clock. And then it kind of gets a little more as you get up towards 6 o'clock. And then 8 o'clock seems like that's when people are really, really active on social media. So I might try to reflect that in my videos and my streams in the future. But like I say, I'm still trying to function and tweak around that. But like I say, everyone have yourself a great day. Another beautiful, actually, I was looking at the weather, and it's looking out for the next week again. Looks like beautiful weather. What is I think in New Brunswick, I swear I seen one of the days it's going to be 30 degrees. So actual, like, genuine, those nice, real hot, not just warm weather, but that hot, sweaty summer or you're fucking feel sweat rolling down the crack of your butt kind of hot, right? But hey, I say bring it on, because I've been dealing with so much winter and cold, especially in the house here. It's like, yeah, I need it. It's really good for the bones, that warm weather. It's like, oh, I'm feeling loosened up all over again, right? Anyways, like I say, all you folks have yourself a great day. We'll see you in the next stream. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty. And thanks for Missy and your son for coming to the stream too. Chris Light, really appreciate you coming to the stream, Chris. And everyone, like I say, in addition to everybody, thanks for coming to the stream. And have yourself a great day. We'll see you next time. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.